Hello, so we're in August and I'm being a bit overly ambitious for August because why not? It's the summer and will I get through all these books? Probably not, but we'll have fun trying. So, what am I planning to read? To start with, let's do the ones that are mostly definite reads, as anything is, but mostly definite. So, reading Valor by John Gwynne, which is the second in the Faithful and the Fallen quadrilogy. Is that it? Quadrilogy? 4? Anyway, it's 4 books. It's part of a read-along with some other booktubers I'm tagging on. So this is the second one. I read the first one, Malice, last month. Valor this month. Malice was excellent. It's quality epic fantasy. It's been thoroughly enjoyed. It's exactly what I've wanted to read. It's really scratched an itch, and I'm looking forward to digging into book 2. I'll recap book 1 in the wrap-up probably next week. But yeah, so really looking forward to that. And continue the epic fantasy journey. So that's a definite. Then we've got one from last month, which I haven't finished yet, or I've only just started, which is Longitude by Dava, Sobel. So this is non-fiction about how we invented the technology, clocks basically, to effectively navigate across the oceans in the 1700s, 18th century. So you can actually measure by longitude, because latitude is relatively straightforward, but longitude was almost impossible to navigate by, and there was no end of shipwrecks and voyages lost at sea for zigzagging across oceans for much longer than they should have done if they'd been able to navigate by longitude. So this is that discovery, or the scientific problem being solved. So that should be fascinating, and this is part of the Historathon 2023. So it's between Historathon now and Q3, so it's between 1500 and 1820. So 18th century, 1700s fits perfectly within that. So we're going to read that one this month. I then need your guys' help, and what I'll probably do is I need to make a decision on which Jane Austen I'm going to read in August. So as you've probably seen from a previous video, I'm looking to try and read more classics and get into reading some more classics. So I've read Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray, which is great. Last month I read Silas Marner by George Eliot, which you'll hear about again in the wrap-up, but I was very pleasantly surprised by. So now I wanted to read a Jane Austen. I've got 2 options. I've got probably her most famous work, Pride and Prejudice, and I've also got Northanger Abbey to choose from. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do, but what I think I'll do is I'll put a poll up on YouTube. So when this video is live, I'll put a poll up for a couple of days, so you can put forward which one you think I should pick up and read in the month of August. And I'll probably get to the next one, the other one probably next year. But yeah, so Pride and Prejudice or Northanger Abbey. Obviously this one's story is probably incredibly well known. You know, it's the Mr. Darcy, Elizabeth Bennet story. It's been no end of TV adaptations and films or whatever else it is. Northanger Abbey is probably slightly less known, but it is one that has been recommended to me as potentially one easier one to get into for Jane Austen rather than the more romance heavy books. But I think it's going to be an experience for me anyway. As I say, I'm trying to get used to reading more classics and getting involved in more classics. And so far, I've really enjoyed them. But if you can help me decide which of these 2 to pick up in August, I'd be immensely grateful. If you're watching this video, the poll is probably live, so you can go and vote on that. What else I'm going to read this month? Well, a couple of Terry Pratchett's, because I'm continuing my Discworld reread. So I've got Wyrd Sisters, which again, we're back with the witches, following on from Equal Rights, but Equal Rights only had Granny Weatherwax. This one has got the other witches as well, the witches of Lank in here as well. So, but again, Granny Weatherwax is the leader. Not that they have leaders, so that should be entertaining. I mean, Terry Pratchett's always entertaining. I also want to try and get to Pyramids as well, if possible. Again, as I said, this is a massively over-ambitious TBR, but there we go. So, Pyramids as well, which is a bit more standalone within Discworld novels. So that's the Pratchett I'm looking through this month. So then we've got some audiobooks, which I'm pretty sure I'll get to. So the first one is Birnam Wood by Eleanor Catton. So this is about a lady called Mira who set up a guerrilla sort of gardening group called Birnam Wood. I suppose that would be the right phrase. And they sort of, sometimes illegally, but certainly unofficially, plant crops in unused or poorly used land, and then reap what they sow. Again, sometimes criminal, sometimes philanthropic, but interesting. But they found a site that seems ideal, but there's a billionaire businessman, Robert Lemoyne, I think his name is, who's also purchased the land, and they sort of come to an agreement, but who can trust who? Can they trust each other? Supposedly a bit of a psychological thriller. Should be interesting. Obviously, Eleanor Catton, quite a highly regarded author, so we'll see how that one reads. It's the first of her novels that I've ever read, so we'll see how that one goes. Then we've got another non-fiction called Enlightenment, I believe it's called. I think it's just called Enlightenment. Bear with me 1 minute, let me just check that. Or The Enlightenment by Ritchie, Robertson. So again, this fits with the Historathon 2023, Q3. So this is about the Enlightenment. So probably quite arguably one of the more formative parts of Western history. And I think this is based from like the late 1600s through to the late 1700s. So it's like 100 years, maybe like 1690 to 1790, I think. So like a 100-year span it covers, which obviously fits perfectly within the remit of Q3. And it's around how the Enlightenment changed our view of the world, and for better or for worse maybe, and how that has impacted society and how it came about. So it should be quite an interesting read. It is quite a hefty audiobook. I think it's 40 plus hours. So that will be the main amount of audiobook listening. And then the third audiobook I'd like to get to, if I can, is Toll, or The Toll. Is it The Toll? The Toll. The Toll, which is Neal Shusterman, which is the third book in the Scythe series, it's actually a young adult fantasy series, sci-fi fantasy series. The concept is pretty interesting. I read the first two, or listened to the first two in July. The concept is effectively there's a benevolent AI that's been put in charge of humanity, and humanity's doing well. Basically, we've conquered death. People don't die from illness or injury or disease anymore, and everyone sort of pretty much has what they want or need. Maybe not what they want, but have what they need in society. But to sort of maintain the populace and to match the supply of food and other materials, they have what they're known as scythes, which are individuals sort of outside of the benevolent AI's control who kill people. They call it gleaning because killing them is permanent death from the scythe, as if you were to die in an accident normal day, you'd be revived, and the medicine is so good that you can't really die outside of that. So it's a very interesting concept where actually you've got a benevolent AI rather than in most cases a malicious AI trying to destroy the world, and also the idea of these scythes being sort of authorized killers and how they go about that, and the different methods and ideologies within that scythehood is quite fascinating. It's an interesting concept, reasonable to live in. I'll talk about it more probably in the wrap-up when I talk about the first two books. So I want to pick up The Toll, which is the third and final one in the series. So that would be good. So they're probably the three audio books that I will get to, hopefully, possibly. And then there's a couple of other books, because obviously all the ones I haven't mentioned I will definitely get to, and these aren't just ridiculous ambitions. So the two I'd like to read are, and these are definitely maybes, but certainly ones I'd like to get to, is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. This is a historical fantasy fiction. I'm going to class it as that. So it's set in 981 AD, where the Viking King of Dublin has died. So it's Irish based. I believe there's quite a lot of sort of Irish mythology within there. We do have some magic within it as well, but it's epic fantasy again. I think it's going to be a trilogy. I know the second book is scheduled to come out at the end of September, 24th, I think, of September, which is why I want to get reading this one, because I'd like to pick up the second one. Plus, I mean, for a cover that's basically the title, it's a beautiful cover. I really do appreciate this cover. So I'd like to get to it. As I say, it's the first in, I think, a trilogy. Second book due out end of September. Will I get to it in August? I hope so. It's possible I won't. I've not really read any Irish mythology or any Irish history books really at all. So it should be quite interesting. It's a new area for me in that sense. Again, as I say, sort of historic, bit of history based, sort of around 980, 1000 AD, but some fantasy thrown in as well, some magic, etc. thrown in as well. So it sounds very enticing, is what I'm going to use. So that's a maybe if I can get to it. And then the final one, if I can get to it, is one I picked up recently, which is a short one, which is why I'm going to throw it on this list, because why not, which is sci-fi. Because I haven't got any sci-fi on the list. Oh, the toll, I suppose, would be sci-fi. But no physical sci-fi on this, which is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. So this is basically a virus is spread around the world. Everyone's become a vampire except for one man who stands alone on the planet and by day hunts the undead, and by night barricades himself into a room and tries to survive. So it should be interesting. Obviously there was a film made a while back now, but it's, as a short book, it's an interesting one. It's obviously a sci-fi masterworks collection, which I've got a few of, though none, there's a couple there actually. So I thought I'd have a look at it, and it's a short one, so maybe I can squeeze it in. Though to be honest, I doubt it. I've given myself such a huge amount of books to read. There's some I'll definitely get to, some I may get to. We'll see where the month takes us, but it should be a good one. I mean, I've got a lot of good books there to read, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope your August reading goes really well. I hope your July reading went fabulously. And let me know in the poll, which will be on the community tab, whether I should be reading Jane Austen, Northanger Abbey, or Pride and Prejudice in August. I'll be grateful for your input on that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.